Welcome to the Rusted Garden. Today is September 25th. I want to give you a tour of my garden. I've got everything transitioned mostly over to the cool weather crops. We'll start up here on my deck. Containers, great way to grow your greens. Lots of lettuces. I just take out the old tomatoes, peppers, different things that are growing in there, and I drop in my lettuces and my greens. And they're doing really, really well. They're a little flat because I just watered them, but they'll spring back. And finally I'm getting cool weather. For the last 3 weeks it's been 85 plus, 90 degrees, and a lot of the lettuce that should be a little bit more bushy is starting to bolt and grow, which means when lettuces get into the warm weather, they try and flower and set seed and they get bitter. So the weather here has messed up things a little bit. Here's a tomato plant that I have been growing since the spring. I pruned it back, cleaned it up, and look at all the great tomatoes in there. This is a glacier and it does really well with cool temperatures. This is definitely a keeper, and hopefully if I can go 3-4 more weeks without a frost, I'll get tomatoes off there again. The eggplant's starting to die back. Swiss chard I brought up from the ground. Onions. I've got broccoli in there. Cauliflower. I'm trying to grow broccoli and cauliflower now in the fall. I've been unsuccessful in the spring because it warms up too quickly, so I'm hoping maybe trying to grow it in the fall will work. And the difference is the cauliflower, the broccoli like cool weather, so I can't get them in early enough, I think, in the spring before the heat comes, but maybe I can drop them in now and the cool weather will come in, and if they can survive long enough I'll get ahead of broccoli or cauliflower. One thing I'm doing, which is pretty cool, is I'm starting a series on hydroponics, and this is my first experiment, and you can see the root systems of just a simple way to grow lettuces in water. This is not something I'm going to teach because this is really an example of how I'm learning, and I have a fellow who's going to help me out in the series, and that should be coming over the next month or so. I talked about in a lot of my videos, I like starting all my greens really in the seed cells, so that as they get to size like this, they go into a container that I clear out from the warm weather crops, and then they end up looking like that. It's a really nice way to really manage your garden, to start everything just like this. You don't need the space, so as the warm weather stuff dies out and you clean it out, you can just take your transplants and put them in there. Down here I've got some lettuce, some butter crunch. Over here it's kohlrabi, so that really helps out and makes a difference. More container greens along here. Let me show you the earth beds. They're doing really well. One thing, you see all these white butterflies? They are now laying eggs on my radishes. You can see, perfect example right there. And the green cabbage looper, the green worm that usually goes on the cabbages, are now starting to kill off, not kill off, but be laid on my radishes, and I'm getting lots of holes. Now I've been spraying neem oil, so that's starting to work. Let's see, and you can sort of see one right above my thumb there. Can't tell if it's moving or not. But you're going to have to spray, usually for chewing insects, on your tender fall greens. And I'm also using iron phosphate, which I have tons of videos on, to control the slugs and snails. And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to grow any of this. One thing that's interesting, this is a Roxanne. This is a hybrid that I'm growing, and I'll be doing a whole series on some varieties that I got when I went on the seed trials in California, and I'll be talking about them. But this variety is doing really well. It's starting to get nice radishes before the standard French breakfast or the good old sparkler. The sparkler doesn't even have anything. Radishes you want to plant in the cool weather. They like 70 degree to 80 degree days, you know, high 50, low 60 nights, just the cool weather. Here's some more in there. My beet greens, I did a video on that. They're doing really, really well. And I just basically took out all the warm weather crops, dropped in the greens in different places. In some places, I packed the greens together really tightly and just harvest the leaves. In this case, I've spread them out, one plant per space, trying to grow a whole sort of head of loose leaf lettuce. Here's my other bed of dwarf peas, beets, some more greens, and I did a video showing these guys just to harvest the leaves, and you can see that they're all coming back. More peas in containers. And this is pretty much where I'm at with the cool season. Let me show you the kale that I cut back in a video a couple weeks ago. It's totally coming back. You can see all the tiny leaves growing along the stalk, and where I cut it off, more tiny leaves, and they're absolutely delicious in the cool weather. And there's more white butterfly. This was a tomato bed, so I've got Swiss chard, broccoli, cauliflower in there. And one thing that I want to recommend, these are tomato plants that are still growing. You can see some tomatoes on there. 2 varieties, managed pretty well. The pests and disease in my area, I stopped taking care of them. I'm going to have some fried green tomatoes out of those. I want to come over here and just show you a couple more tomato plants. And my point is the plants, tomato plants do really well, seem to manage the disease best in your area, seems to manage the temperatures the best in your area. Make sure you write them down and grow them again next year. Because everything's an experiment. I might grow 20, 30, 40 different varieties, and a lot of them have died out and have been, wiped out already. But I'm going to keep, there's a Cherokee purple back there, that's a Brandywine yellow. I'm going to keep track of the ones that have survived up through today and start growing them more, and I'm going to actually downsize a little bit. Brussels sprouts have been topped off. They're starting to plump up nicely. And another radish bed that's really going to be a star of a series coming up soon. I'm doing video on this from planting all the way through harvesting. And this is my hot peppers, I think, all in there. These are all going to get harvested over the next week, either dried or pickled in some capacity. But overall, the garden's going quite well this year. Even into fall, things are really continuing through, and the cool weather stuff is looking good. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please check out my blog at www.theroastedgarden.blogspot.com, and also check out my YouTube videos. Thanks.